Yeah, this is called a level now, but it used to be that these were called whiskey sticks or spirit levels. Back in the day, when the technology emerged to make these glass vials, the liquid couldn't be water, and the most readily available liquid with low enough viscosity that wouldn't freeze was alcohol, spirits, whiskey stick. If you're new on the job, or if you have a weird obsession with tools and their history and their names like I do, hang around, because here's a collection of stuff, and the names, whether it's the real names or the slang names, is fascinating. If you're a framer, you've already got names for your big hammers, like Persuader. But if you're in a blacksmith shop with Cy Swan and I, an 8-pounder is Helga, a 6-pounder is Olga, and a 3-pounder is Flicka.
Go get Helga, will you?
What? Get what?
Helga.
What's Helga?
Helga. Steve didn't know who Helga was.
You hadn't met Helga?
Hey.
Flicka in Swedish means little girl. Let's get these out of the way. This little bar has a variety of names: Wonder Bar, Super Bar. It's flexible, it scrapes, it pulls. You may know this as a door bar. A door bar is used, amazingly, for raising doors. You can also lift drywall sheets. There's a lot of things you can do with a little flat bar like that are hard to do with anything else. This is an example of maybe the simplest pry bar you can buy. This is known around here as a cat bar, C-A-T. That may be, as in cat bolts. Caterpillar made the best quality hardware ever. I think a cat bar comes from the day when a simple bar of super well-tempered high-carbon steel made by Caterpillar was the go-to thing. I don't know, but I call this simple and handy tool a cat bar. This is the tool that I still own that was part of the carpenter kit that I bought when I was 20 years old and went to work for Gary Wagner Construction. This is a squangle. That's almost hard to say, a squangle. And there are more modern tools now for, on-the-job rafters, common rafters, valley rafters, hip jacks, all the things that you can do with a squangle. It's light, it's handy. I just like to say it. Squangle, squangle, squangle. This is a Spud wrench. With a crescent end on it, it's about 1,000,000 tools in one, but at the most elemental level, it's a drift that you can use for lining up the holes that have been drilled or burned through steel pieces. Think of a beam coming in, you're up in the air, and you can capture or line up the holes in the beam with a hole in the flange on the column and tie things together while you actually bolt it. And if you use an adjustable wrench on the end, it's every size. It is, that's a very versatile tool, and besides that, you get to say Spud wrench. Okay, here is the most modern tool on the table, and I don't happen to know a tool that has more nicknames than this one. There are raging debates about how we even identify this thing, so if you have your pet name for this thing, put it in the comments, will you, and end the debate, but I call it a buzzsaw. All right, let's press forward and get some of this gear out of the way. This archaic thing is a cant hook. Now, why would you want anything that starts out with something so negative as cant hook? A cant is a piece of a log that is hacked out. It's a giant slab that ordinarily is then turned and edged into boards. Now, it can also just be square cants, baby squares, sometimes they're called, but this is a wood wrench, also for hooking and turning wood. Cant hook, smaller and more agile than a PV, but does about the same thing. All right, continuing with our theme of wood's work off the asphalt, this is a Pulaski. It's an axe, pretty darn sharp. It's a mattock for digging. You'll see these things on wildland firefighting crews. You'll also see them on construction sites, because sometimes when you're chopping along, you need to be able to chop this way, like a form setter can, or chop a root that intrudes into a footing or, alongside a foundation. Pulaski. It's another one of those that's just fun to say. So these next two are related, but they function 90 degrees opposite to each other. These are diagonal cutters, wire cutters primarily, and these are end nips. Now perhaps that's obvious, but if somebody sends you to the truck to get a pair of dikes, it's an abbreviation for diagonal cutters. Dikes. If they send you for end nips, it's because the end is where the cutting happens. So perhaps it's obvious, but these are more useful than these. These have one job. They do it very well. They cut wire. These will cut wire. They will get a hold of a finished nail and either cut it off at the surface or pull it out carefully. You see that? That'll pull nails. They will also get a hold of two sides of a twisting wire and twist tie wire on rebar. So if you just had to pick one, if you're marooned on a desert island and you have a whole bunch of wire you need to cut, just hope and pray that this ended up in your toolkit instead of this. Let's go back to an earlier time. Now, earlier times are often thought of as being simpler. This is a Yankee screwdriver, and when I started as a carpenter in 1981, I went to work for Wade Welch, and he had me installing door hardware with a Yankee screwdriver. You see that? You can put a little drill bit in there and drill a small hole. You can put a straight slot bit or a Phillips bit. Those were the only bits that existed for screws in those days, and run screws in to hinges or latches or wherever you need them. Yankee screwdrivers. There are people who will still use these. I mean, here it'll retract the screw in the middle position. It just becomes a long distance screwdriver and push it ahead and it runs them ahead. There are people who will carry these in their bags instead of a cordless drill driver. And on some days, I understand them. Okay, winding this down. This is a nickname that's a real name that is very intuitive. This is a come-along. It's a winch. This is a winch. It's probably got 40 feet of line on there. We've got a video we did years ago about this. We've got videos on most of these things. But a come-along is porta-power, right? I mean, you can pull trees back off of, if you've got a leaning tree that's got to be cut down and you can get a come along in the line, you can put a real pull. I even used this one time, as I described in some video, to load a recalcitrant horse into a horse trailer. But he thought he was tough, especially when you're trying to put him in a horse trailer, because he figured out he could sit back harder than you could pull. And he didn't respond well to being courted on the seat of the pants to get him to jump in. And so one particular day, I just ran a rope through the halter behind his ears and got both ends of the rope. You do that so you're not choking them off. You don't want to strangle them, and you don't want to depend on the halter if you're going to really pull. So you run a rope behind their ears, and I hooked this up through the front of the horse trailer, and I would just take a click, 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 and his eyes got kind of big. He realized, man, this guy can pull a lot harder than I thought. And at a certain point, he ran up the white flag and walked right in. So whether you're pulling trees back off your shed, pulling your car out of the ditch, or pulling a pony into a trailer, be careful with that. A come-along is pretty handy. All right, these you probably understand, and you're going to click out because you don't want to hear what I have to say about it, but this you may not recognize. This is called a snare. That's slang. What this really is a choker. Got a video about that, yarding some logs out that I sawed up. But this is the way that logs are connected to power, whether it's a yarder or a skidder or a cat on the ground or whatever it is that's pulling the logs out of the woods. This is what's used to hook the log to the power. This is the nubbin that's swedged on now. It used to be cast on with babbitt. This is the bell. You can see where that nickname comes from. And the nubbin engages the bell like that. And it's a very positive connection. Ideally, on a standard choker set, choker setters are the guys on the ground doing this work. Ideally, this is set back from 2 to 4 feet from the end of the log. Any less than 2 feet, it might slip off the end. Any more than 4 feet, it's more prone to hang up on a stump. Choker setters have a hard job and a dangerous job. They put the eye over the hook on the cat, or maybe it's already tied into the butt rigging on the yarder. Now this is a 1/2 inch diameter, probably a 10-foot long choker. This is a baby choker. This is not much more than a piece of baling twine compared to the chokers on real jobs. This is 7/8 line. I've set chokers on high lead operations where the chokers were 7/8 in diameter and 30 feet long. And the bell probably weighed 15 pounds. A friend of mine darn near got killed by one of those bells flying through the brush. So let me drill down just a little more. Most of these tools, when you look at them, you can visualize the job, the responsibility, the effort that it takes to use them, right? But this is deceptive. Doesn't look heavy, doesn't look dangerous. But what you're doing when you're setting chokers, whether it's a little bitty, wimpy, half-inch diameter choker behind a little D4 cat, or whether you're waiting for the butt rigging to hit the ground on a high lead show and you jump in there and grab your choker and go to your log that the rigging slinger has told you you need to set a choker on. You're moving as fast as you can because you got zillions of dollars worth of men and equipment waiting back on the landing for you to get out of the way, so boom, they can go ahead on the rigging and get those logs up to, time. So the choker setter is making it happen. And it's heavy, and it's dangerous, and it's slippery, and in the winter, in the snow, it's brutal. Kicking your way through the snow and digging a choker hole, which is what you got to create, is a choker hole underneath the log so you can get the choker around there. It's wonderful on a spring day. It's wonderful when things are dry and it's not dusty and there's no snow and the landing is not a sea of mud. But it is a grueling, serious job in adverse weather. But I'll tell you what, nothing will teach you the mechanical advantage aspects of pulleys and ropes and leverage and line quite like setting chokers and working in the brush. So just to wrap this up, a cat's paw when you put a nail in the wrong place. Don't be putting a bunch of nails in the wrong place. That's the cat's paw. That's the sheep's foot. Gotta love these names. And I'm saving this till last because it's visually engaging. This is a striker. It's a flint and steel, right? It makes a striker. This is a hot wrench. A cutting torch is affectionately known as a hot wrench. And if the nut is rusted into place, if it's an old piece of equipment, or the threads have been so marred that you can't get the nut off, you just take a hot wrench and before you know it, your problem's solved. I don't know how much of this is interesting. I love the names that we attach to our tools. I love the work that we accomplish with our tools. I love the slang and the vernacular and the banter and everything related to taking things that have been made somewhere else, usually, and using them to make something worthwhile right where you are, right now. Using the budgeted amount of material, the budgeted amount of time to turn out a product that is satisfactory to everyone who has to use whatever it is you've made with those tools. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.